you.
The person addressing you as you pass by on the street is wearing a police uniform. Do you answer the call? If you turn back to answer, you recognise yourself as the one who's being addressed. In turning, you respond to the voice of an authority. In this case, you answer the call of the law. And recognising yourself as having to respond when the police hail or address you, you also recognise yourself as a subject of law. If you don't answer, you fear there may be consequences for resisting the law's command. Your fear of consequences might be greater or less, depending on who you think they think you are. French philosopher and Marxist Louis Althusser called this process of recognising oneself as a subject interpellation. This is not the only situation in which we become subjects or are interpellated. Gender Sexuality and Diversity Studies examines all sorts of marginal identities that get subjected to different forms of address. A teacher at school wants to get the children in her classroom ready for an excursion. The teacher calls out, "Boys line up on this side and girls line up on that side." The children obediently form two lines. The teacher pulls one kid out of the line saying, "You're in the wrong line. You're in the boys' line. The girls' line's over there." The kid looks at the teacher, hesitates and says, "But I'm not a girl." Some kids in the class laugh. The teacher gets frustrated and thinks the kid is naughty and sends the kid to the office for being disobedient. The teacher's reading of the kid's gender does not match the kid's own sense of their gendered self. We could say the kid feels misinterpellated because they do not see themselves as fitting the social category of gender to which they are being subjected. Most kids, however, fall into line. They come to recognise themselves as the gender they were assigned at birth. The concept of interpellation helps explain the process by which individuals become subjects. This is to say, individuals come to think of themselves in terms of the social categories in which they are addressed. Now things could get tricky here, as mostly we learn to think of ourselves as being born with a gender, with a race, into a class, with a sexuality, or with a disability, and so on. But the meanings of these categories and the values, beliefs, thoughts and actions that we associate with them pre-exist our entry into them. Think of being born into the world. The nationality on our birth certificate and the boxes from which to tick M or F, male or female, most states only have two, are categories that await our arrival. We are assigned a sex by the way in which our biology is read, sometimes in utero. But the meanings, values and practices associated with the biological categories of sex change over time and space. We learn to act in accordance with what is expected of those categories, or we might resist them as we negotiate our sense of self in the world. In any case, the way we come to think of ourselves by learning how we fit or not within these social categories. Interpellation, the way we are addressed in the world, is the process by which this is conveyed. What remains tricky for all of us when we communicate the status of any identity, in an animation like this for instance, is that we most often have to rely on the very stereotypes associated with the social categories that we might want to contest and to which we are subjected. There's no way of getting around this, but at the same time, this doesn't mean we are helpless in trying to shift and change how they work.